thank you so much for being here together. By the way, it's so much better when there's people in here. During the week, you're not in here, and it's just a warehouse. Just doesn't feel the same. So always good to see you. I want to remind you of a couple of things coming up this weekend. There's a lot of things happening this next weekend, and if you're not careful, you'll miss it. One brand new thing is we've been doing a prayer walk with the city of Asheboro on the first Saturday of the month. The pastors from the Asheboro area have asked if Northridge would help launch a similar thing in the city of Randleman. So they've asked if we would head up initiating a prayer walk in downtown Randleman on the second Saturday of each month. And so what we're doing is we're promoting that. You'll see it in various places. You won't see it say Northridge on it, because the goal is that we get area churches together showing up and taking ownership of a particular Saturday and that sort of thing. So this coming Saturday, I hope you'll join us as we meet at, I think it's 9 a.m. at Commerce Square. You'll know that's the little park in Randleman where the checkered flag is. And when I first took Jordan over there, he goes, "Oh, look, a chessboard." But he's learning slowly. He's learning things. So 9 a.m. on Saturday, we'll meet there. We'll just walk to the police department and maybe a couple other places, and we'll just stop and we'll just pray for the city. That's all we'll do, and then we'll move on. Second thing is next Sunday, we will not be in this room. We will be having church in the park next Sunday morning. Now, for those of you that have been here for a while, you're going to head to the wrong park, because we're not going to that park. Okay, make sure you're hearing this. We're going to a different park this time. So we will be in Randleman, in the city of Randleman, at the park that's on Stout Street. Okay, they've given us the entire park. They're very excited that we're going to be there. And so we're looking forward to spending our Sunday morning there. So be sure you join us. We'll be cooking hot dogs and chips and drinks. If you want to bring a side or a dessert, there's little papers in your seats. You'll figure that out. I just want to make sure you came to the right park. Great. So we're coming close to the conclusion of the book of James that we've been studying together. We're not quite finished today, but we're getting close. Just want to remind you a couple things. James has been talking about two kinds of faith. Really, it's a fake faith and a genuine faith. So a fake faith is one that says certain things but doesn't do any of them. There's really no change, but we're saying it. And so to be honest, James says that's not real. The second is there's a genuine faith. A truth is that the faith that God gives you, it doesn't make you perfect, but there ought to be a difference. There ought to be some progress. There should be some change. So if you've been doing this for decades and you're still the same, something's not right with that faith. So James has been talking to us about two kinds of faith. He also talked to us about two kinds of wisdom: worldly wisdom and godly wisdom. Worldly wisdom is really the one that says your truth is your truth. Whatever you decide is good for you is good for you. You do you. It all sounds good, right? It sounds good, but you are the center. You are truth. You follow your own way. James is telling us something else called godly wisdom. And that is simply understanding that God has designed the world to work in a particular way, and I am aligning myself with the way that God has designed his world to work. That's godly wisdom. He's also now going to introduce us to two concluding thoughts as he wraps up his letter. We're going to look at one of those today, and that one is patience. The second one will be prayer. Patience and prayer. So let's read the text, and then we're going to zip right through, and we'll land on time. Okay, here we go. James chapter 5, verse 7. Therefore, what does therefore mean? You always have to look and ask the question, what is therefore? Therefore. That's what you do. And then you look back and you read everything that he's already said. And then he says, in light of everything I've said, brothers and sisters, be patient until the Lord's coming. He says, see how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth and is patient until it receives the early and late rains. You must also be patient. Strengthen your hearts because the Lord's coming is near. Brothers and sisters, do not complain about one another. What do you think they were doing? They were complaining. So that you will not be judged. Look, the judge stands at the door. Brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the Lord's name as an example of suffering and patience. See, we count as blessed those who have endured. And we have heard of Job's endurance, and we have seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. The Lord is compassionate and merciful. Above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, or yea and nay if you're still in the King James. I memorized everything in the King James, so that's what I hear sometimes. So that you won't fall under judgment. That's the text for today. So we ask that God would give us some clarity as we continue to think through it. So James is really going back to the place where everything started. Remember, he's talking to people that have lost a lot because of their following of Jesus. Some of them lost their homes. Some of them lost family members. So they've been suffering quite a bit. That's who James is talking to. And James is going to gently say to them, be patient. You remember chapter 1, verse 2, he says, consider it great joy whenever you experience various trials, because you know the testing of your faith produces, what's the word? Endurance. That's a key word for today, by the way. And let endurance have its full effect so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. James says to these people, I know you're being mistreated. I know it. I get it. I know how that feels. Be patient. Jesus will return. God is not going to right all the wrongs in this world until he returns. But we have to endure and expect. There's your whole endure and expect. That's what he's telling them here. I love the way that counselor and pastor Paul Tripp describes patience. Here's how he describes it. Patience is quietness of heart, rest of soul in the face of uncomfortable delay. That's patience. Paul says we have this thing called a blessed hope. He says it this way in Titus chapter 2, for the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, instructing us to deny godlessness and worldly lust, to live in a sensible, righteous, and godly way in the present age, while we wait for the blessed hope, which is the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. We don't like uncomfortable. I don't like uncomfortable. I don't like suffering. I don't like to wait. The scripture is very clear. We're going to have suffering, and we're going to have to wait. But we don't like to be patient. And yet God has called us to live in what we call the already and the not yet. We live in the middle, you and I. We live in the middle. Already Christ has come. Already he has suffered and died. Already he has paid the price that we cannot repay. Already the word of God has been given to us. Already the Spirit of God has been given to us. And yet, sin has not yet completely been eradicated. And yet, things continue to happen in this world that we wish would not happen. And daily we are aware that there is more to come. We're called to the difficult work of waiting. James is going to say, by the way, you're doing great. I see you trying really hard. I see you trying really hard. If it were me, I would go to the cafe and get a cup of coffee and stop by and check on a friend, see how you're doing. There's one main reason why I'm standing here, and it's because I cannot sit for 25 minutes straight in a row. So thank you for doing your part. I don't know where we were, but James says in verse 7, he says, so brothers and sisters, be patient until the Lord's coming. And then he uses an illustration. He goes, just like the farmer that waits and the rain, and it takes a long time. He said, be patient, strengthen your hearts, because the Lord is coming, is near. This is real faith, okay? This is what real life in Jesus looks like. It is a patient waiting. You know what I like to do? I like to shrink the world down to just the here and now. Just me and mine. In fact, that's some of the advice that we give each other. Just be in the moment. And maybe that's good advice for some reasons. But James is not giving us that advice. He's reminding us of the coming of Jesus. And sometimes you can't understand why God would call us to be patient. Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to be patient with this? Until you are able to see things through the lens of eternity, that everything in the here and now will lead us there. And when we are there, here will seem like a short wait. You ever talk to somebody that's celebrating a big anniversary? They're like, how did that happen? Where did that time go? You know? If you ever want to make your parent feel really old, just tell them how old you are. Freak them right out. So he says, like the farmer, we got to wait this thing out. But there also should be an expectancy. But we don't do this well. This is a struggle. We want it now, especially when you're suffering. Man, you want it to end. I just want it to end. But the farmer knows it can't happen right now. This thing takes time. This weekend we had the grandkids over to the house, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad they went home. But we had a great time, and we live in a little bitty place with not much yard, but Diana has planted food everywhere, every square inch of the place. We have everything you can imagine. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, potatoes, squash, zucchini, onions, peppers, other stuff. And it's been growing and growing, all kinds of lettuces and stuff. It's been growing and growing all season, you know what I mean? Just growing. We haven't eaten anything yet, but it's growing. You know how it is if you have a garden. And so I'm watching the grandkids over there, and I watched her go right over and just rip a carrot right out of the ground. I'm like, you know how long we've been waiting on that thing to grow? And it's like just like this big, you know. And my grandson's like standing in a Walmart plastic pool with the water hose and the dog chewing on a carrot that's like got the green stuff still hanging off of it. He's living his best life. And Diana's not standing there talking to him like, do you know how long I've been waiting for that carrot to grow? No. Do you know how much sweat? Do you know how much dirt? You know how much I had to pull weeds? Keep the deer off of it. I've been watering that every night since you were 2 years old, waiting for it. She didn't even tell him how hard it was to be patient. James says, hold on. I know it's a struggle. I know right now you think, I don't know if I can endure this. Everything is going to be made right, James says. The Bible tells us that the wicked who have mistreated you will receive their judgment, and those established in Jesus will receive a reward. Verse 9, brothers and sisters. He kind of shifts gears just a little bit. Do not complain about one another, so that you will not be judged. Look, the judge stands at the door. He says to them, by the way, just as a side note, and you know how this is, when you're struggling or you're under a lot of pressure, it's really easy for us to take out our frustration on the people that we love the most, on the people that are closest to us. Because all day we've just been trying to keep our stuff together. And then you finally get home and somebody says something to you and we just let it rip. You know what I mean? You're like, why am I so mean to my family? And sometimes you just do that. James says, come on, you can do this. Don't take it out on each other. And then he reminds them that Jesus is watching you too. Jesus is watching you too. Have you seen the little Jesuses? This is like nothing, should not even be in the sermon right now. I don't know why it just popped in my head. Those things keep popping up everywhere. I just thought Jesus is watching you, and I keep finding those little things. Diana picked up some energy drinks that I like from Walmart this week, and the dog ran over to it and started sniffing around at him and pulled something out of it. So she chased it around to find it. Here's little Jesus. So some of you like extroverted evangelist types are putting little Jesuses in the Celsius drinks at Walmart. That's pretty much what James meant. Jesus is watching you too. You can do this. Be careful. I know you're under a lot of pressure. Don't let that pressure blow out in the direction of your family. Instead, be patient. Let go of these things at the feet of Jesus and know that he will return. He will make things right. He's going to fix things. It won't happen right away. But you can endure and you can expect for him to arrive. You can do this. Don't take it out on each other. And then he goes on to say in verse 10, so brothers and sisters, just as a reminder, take a look at the prophets who spoke in the Lord's name as an example of suffering and patience. See, we count as blessed those who have endured. You've heard of Job's endurance and you've seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. Remember, the Lord is compassionate and he's merciful. So he says, take a look at the prophets that we know from old. Look at their example. Most of them were put to death for the things that they taught. They suffered for a short time, but they have been living in complete joy in the presence of God every moment since. That's what James is preaching to the church and to you. Jesus did something similar in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. Jesus said, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. You are blessed when they insult you and persecute you and falsely say every kind of evil against you because of me. Be glad and rejoice, because your reward is great in heaven. For that is how they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So he says one thing, they were in the will of God, and yet they suffered. We've got to remember this. We've got to remember this. It's really difficult when you're doing as you should, and you're following Jesus to the best of your ability. You're attending church. You're staying awake. You're doing all the right things. And there will be people who will bully you and condemn you even while you're doing good. And so we think, what am I doing wrong? And our enemy will tell us it has to be the result of sin. There must be something wrong with you, which is why people are giving you such grief. Now, it could be, so you should probably check. But it's very possible that your suffering may actually be a result of your faithfulness in pursuing Jesus. We have to be careful not to assume and to equate, automatically think that obedience to Jesus will produce comfort. Because it just doesn't. It shouldn't be a surprise to us. Jesus told us the obedience of Jesus himself to the Father led him to a cross. So don't automatically think, I'm going to follow Jesus, I'm going to surrender everything, and he's going to make me comfortable and happy. That's not always true. But the people that came before us encourage us by reminding us that God cares for us when we go through sufferings for his sake. So verse 12, James 5, here's what he says as he wraps this all together. He says, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you won't fall under judgment. This sounds like a weird way to end the sermon. Like he was just talking about patience and endurance and expectation, enduring suffering for Christ's sake, even when we're doing well and now we're uncomfortable. When will this end? When will God put everything right? And he's reminding us to look to eternity and know that this is a short thing. All right? It feels forever. It is not. It's fast. And we will spend eternity with the one who will return and set it straight. So James is cheering them. And then all of a sudden, it seems like he goes into this rules about contracts and negotiations and oaths, and he destroyed it. He had it going, and then he crashed it right at the end. Not the case. Let's look at what he actually is saying. Why would he say this? So think about this with me. If you've ever struggled, you know the answer. It's really easy when you're hurting to say things that you don't mean. Even when you're talking to God. When you're talking to God, it's really easy to say things you don't mean. Like make deals with God. You might be thinking, I don't ever do this. The theme here that James is talking about is the irritation of all the stuff that's going on. Notice that he said, don't take it out on the people you love. And now he's talking about not making deals with God. Is basically saying, I'm irritated, I'm frustrated because I'm tired. I'm frustrated because I'm suffering and I'm hurting. So some of them maybe even swearing to God or saying things like, God, if I'm lying right now, you can strike me dead. But if that guy says that again, I'm going to punch him in the throat. You know what I mean? That kind of, I never said that, but I was just thinking about it. So you know what I'm saying? We sometimes will say things to God. God, if you'll just get me out of this, my next 3 kids, I'm going to name them Jesus. You know what I mean? Those kinds of, I don't know what you might say, but if the pain's great enough, we'll reach out to God and we'll say things like that. And James says, chill out on that. God hears that stuff. Man, he's standing there in front of you with his arms wide open and he's saying, I love you. I'm here for you. I've paid a great price for you. I know you're hurting. I know you're uncomfortable. This won't last long. You can endure. And I will return. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. Man, the world is changing really quickly. And we look really weird to a lot of people. And it's going to get worse that way. The more we teach this book and the more we love Jesus. So we have to be careful that the future pressure that may come doesn't frustrate us with each other. You know what I mean? We got to take care of that. Make sure we don't get frustrated. We got to be patient like a farmer and remind each other that Jesus will return. And for today in this moment, whatever you might be going through, the last thing you want to hear me say is be patient. I mean, as kids, when our parent would say, be patient, I'm like, but because of the hope we have in Jesus, we can be patient. We can have quietness of soul in the middle of uncomfortable circumstances. We can endure. And I believe there'll be a day when we stand and shoulder to shoulder with James and We say, thanks for the word. It was worth the wait.